In my live stream yesterday, a lot of you in the live chat were turning around and saying that Meghan Markle uses ARCHEWELL Foundation to launder money. Now, this is an opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, that has been going around for quite a while. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring my friend, DC lawyer John Witherspoon, onto this channel today. And let's find out, could this actually be possible? Hey up everyone, it's me, Stef The Alter Nerd, your nerdy alternative, and welcome to the Dose of the Daily Nerd, where I break down the royal news and gossip of the day that's pretty much caught my eye. And oh my goodness, yes, let's jump into it with my good friend DC lawyer John Witherspoon. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, mate. How you doing?
I'm good, Steph. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on. But like I said at the beginning of this video, when I was live yesterday, there were a lot of you guys in the live chat that were calling upon this theory, this rumor, that Meghan has used the ARCHEWELL Foundation to launder money. Now, this is a rumor, opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, that has been going around for quite a while. And I'm there thinking, well, hang on a minute. Could this actually really be possible in the first place? And so I asked John. And so, John, just to relay for the folks out there, could this actually be possible? Could anyone with a charitable foundation in America actually use said foundation to launder money? And how would that actually work?
Well, let me put it this way. You could probably engage in some inappropriate business in terms of the way that you account for funds and spend and receive money and so forth through a nonprofit. The problem is you probably would not get away with it for terribly long. I also suspect that you probably would not be able to get away with it in an organization that is the size of ARCHEWELL and that has been subjected to the amount of public scrutiny that ARCHEWELL already has. As most people probably recall, there was a situation 6 or 8 months ago where there were some filing issues with documents that were supposed to have been filed with the state of California. They apparently didn't get there on time. It became an issue in the media. Governor Newsom of California actually had to weigh in. I think he felt that was appropriate for whatever reason, and sort of clear the air on exactly what had happened. I really would find it hard to believe that ARCHEWELL was being used in some underhanded way by Meghan and Harry. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who would like to think that there is something going on. But again, because of the level of scrutiny that's being applied to Harry and Meghan and the fact that this information is all public, I think it's pretty unlikely. The reason that you have to file a Form 990 and you file that with the Internal Revenue Service, which is the federal national tax collecting service in the United States, it's part of the Department of the Treasury. The reason that you have to file those forms is that in exchange for being granted nonprofit status, in other words, tax exempt status, you have to provide a fairly high level of transparency into where your money is coming from, where your money is going, and that type of thing. And we can talk in a minute about some of the breakdowns of information that are required on this form. And I'll just point out as well, for instance, just as an example of how much information you have to provide, in the expense portion, for instance, you have to list what you've spent money on. And then in a different part of the form, you actually have to specify whether any of the officers or directors of the organization, and I believe there are 5 of them, 2 of which are Harry and Meghan, you have to specify whether any of those people were traveling and did so on a charter plane or by flying first class. So that's intended to keep people from setting up a charity like ARCHEWELL and deciding that they're going to fly all over the place and bill the expense to the charity and then basically have a luxury trip on a private jet or in first class. So I just bring that up as a example of the extent to which you really do have to be fairly transparent in the information that you provide.
Mm. And from what John said, yes, there are 5 people on the board. You've got James Holt, Michael Dale Stein, Sean Knapp, and then you've got, yes, Megzi and Hazza. Now, John, the first thing that you wanted to direct our attention to when it comes to their Form 990 for 2022, because 2023 is not released yet, guys, is firstly Part 9, the Statement of Functional Expenses. So for the purpose of this video and the topic that we're talking about today, why do you want us to direct our focus to Part 9 first and foremost?
Yeah, it's a fair question why that's an important place to look. And the reason is that typically to be a well-run charity in the United States, the conventional wisdom seems to be that you don't want your expenses to be more than about 25 or 30%, maybe a little bit more of your overall revenue. So you don't want to have a situation where you're taking in X amount of dollars and you're spending almost X amount of dollars on administrative costs. You want to have some money, a substantial portion, if not a large majority, 2/3 or more of the money that you've raised. You want that to be going into your mission-oriented activity and not being spent on salary or travel or rent for your office space and internet service, you name it, all usual business types of expenses. So the thing I'll point out in this case is that usually it takes about 3 years. Again, the conventional wisdom being that when a nonprofit starts up, usually takes about 3 years for there to be an opportunity to really get a good sense of what is going on financially with the organization. Now, in Archewell's case, they have filed 2 years worth of Form 990. We're waiting on the 3rd year, but we don't have it yet. But when that comes in, there will clearly be some patterns that are discernible and that people can look at and say, yeah, they're running a pretty tight ship, or it's possible that they are spending more money than they should on administrative costs, and potentially, and I say potentially, that's when you start to look in and you say, well, gosh, where's all this money going? If people have donated it and it's not going to support some sort of a mission of making the world a better place, then that's when you really start to look a little bit more deeply. Now, one thing I'll mention, since Stef has the page up on the screen right now, one thing that's a little odd in terms of the individuals that are involved with the organization is that the only 2 directors, their board of directors only has 2 people on it, Harry and Meghan, and of course, their husband and wife. That is not something that you would normally expect to see on a statement of leadership or of oversight of an organization like this. Normally, you would expect to see 5, 6, 7, 8 members of a board of directors who are not so intimately involved in the overall direction and interest of the organization. So that jumps out at me. Some other people have pointed that out as well. If I were Harry and Meghan and I wanted to be above reproach, I would get some other people on my board of directors. To me, that just seems a little bit odd. It's kind of a lightning rod, an invitation to criticism. And I'm a little surprised that that's the way that they have set this up. Now, of course, you can see there, I believe, the number of hours. If we're looking at the right page, it's a little small on my screen, but if we're looking at the number of hours, they both have famously said that they devote 1 hour a week to their activities with Archewell, which caught everybody by surprise, and people sort of said that's kind of weird. The good news there is that they're not collecting any salary, or so they say, and that's obviously commendable if in fact that's the case. And I don't think there's any direct reason to doubt that they are playing games somehow with that aspect of the financial information.
So, John, you said something there, which is they're not, Hazza and Megzy aren't collecting a salary, or so they say. Is there a scenario whereby they could still be getting paid from ARCHEWELL Foundation, just in another way that is a little bit more less obvious? Let's put it that way very delicately.
Yeah, well, there are always loopholes on things like this. And for instance, let's say this is totally hypothetical, but just as an example, let's say that they're using car service for whatever reason, and they've not reported that is a salary, but instead they're reporting that as a travel-related expense. Okay, depending on who your accountant is and how tight or how loose you want to apply whatever rules are relevant in this case, some people might say, that's kind of pushing it a little bit, because if you're using chauffeured service or limo service or car service or whatever it is, and you're not really conducting ARCHEWELL business the entire time, then potentially that could be viewed as a form of income. Again, I'm not saying that that's what's going on, and I'm not saying that that they have any ulterior motives when it comes to their travel or anything like that. So I just want to be clear. But that's just an example of a way in which what might otherwise be characterized as income is sort of backdoor income, because you're really displacing an expense that you might otherwise have to pay for out of your own pocket. Again, I'm not suggesting any of that's going on, but since Steph asked for an example, I just want to use that because it's the kind of thing that could happen at any nonprofit organization. You just have to be very careful about those types of accounting situations, and it's always easy and very tempting to sort of say, well, just bill that to the, I'll bill my lunch to the nonprofit, or I'll bill my car to the nonprofit, my car service to the nonprofit, whatever it is. If you let that get out of control, you can get yourself in substantial trouble.
Well, on that bombshell, guys, just to go around full circle, yesterday in the live stream for the Daily Nerd Live Sunday edition, you guys were, really talking about this rumor that has been going around for quite a while now. Megzy and Hazza, are they actually using ARCHEWELL Foundation to launder money? Well, guys, next day, right now, I've just brought on DC lawyer John Witherspoon to answer that. Hopefully that's cleared up a little bit more of this rumour and the confusion that's going around on that particular topic. And if you appreciated what came out from John Witherspoon, and of course you did, why wouldn't you? Then make sure you head on over to his Instagram at WitherspoonDC. It's the only place you are able to actually contact him. So if you've got any further questions about what is discussed in this video or any previous videos that he's been on this channel, then head on over to Instagram at WitherspoonDC. Please bear in mind, he may not be able to answer all your questions, but he'll try and get to as many as he can. And guys, just on a little bit of a side note, we are going through a bit of a YouTube purge at the moment still. So please do make sure you still subscribe to this channel. And for those that are not, please subscribe right now so we can stick 2 fingers up at YouTube and say, not today, Satan. With that being said, again, special thank you to John for jumping on at the last minute to do this video with me. I appreciate you, mate. And thanks to everyone that tuned into this video. Appreciate all your faces. And until the next time, you guys, laters.